this thing ended up coming out.
Yeah.
This part here ended up coming out. You've got your top piece, and then you've got the OLED which you can insert into your top piece. And from this side, you've got exactly what you want, which is the exposed touchpad and the screen, and it's all beautiful. But then on this side, you need to figure out how to mount it. But previously, what we've done is have two pieces, and had the base piece, and then this went on top, and then the other piece went on top of that. So it was very easy to mount it, from a construction point of view. But then the question is, how do you get away with mounting this? And one option is you can make photo frames and stuff that you get from Kmart, and they've got those little latches, so you can make a small latch and put a screw in. But we don't have, or I don't want to allocate the room for an entire new screw. You wouldn't be able to fit the PCBs in. So what I ended up doing was having like this little mount. Let's chuck that in here, nice and tight. Yeah, there we go. I think I've got it in frame. You've got this mount which gets glued or adhesive onto this part of the device. And because of that issue that I mentioned before, where this Delrin material is so smooth that glue really can't hold on to it well, we had when I was looking at it with you, Mo, if you press like in a certain part of the touchscreen, it would actually drop maybe like a millimeter, which means the glue wasn't, upholding. And what I was saying, or what I've done, I'm going to both use a better glue that I've used for tough material before. I'm trying this technique, which also improves it. And what I've done is I have these little, you can see it. There's actually a little tip or a little tooth. So you'll have these teeth around the circular part where the OLED goes in, and 3D printed piece, that 3D printed mount, the structural part gets slotted into it. You will use the better glue, and because it's got those teeth, it should also have kind of better vertical force, because you'll have if you push it down into it and it kind of clamps on the side, it's like jamming a book between two books. They push against each other and they make it harder to actually pull out.
You've got the exterior piece and then something will slide in there, and you've got another one putting pressure to hold it in place. Is that it? When you're saying it's like having two books on either side, so the little tooth puts a little bit of pressure on there just to keep it in place, right?
Yeah, I mean
that's how it all fits together.
I'll have photos this week anyway. It's one of the tests that will be done this week. But the other thing that happened when I took it to Yuma, everything seemed okay. And then he was pulling it out, pulling it in, pulling it out, and pulling it in. And we actually had one of the other parts come off. And this is the part that goes inside this flip out part of the device. So I'll slide it inside just so you can see. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it well on the camera?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can see how it just slides in.
Yeah.
And originally, at the moment, you can't see it. And it's purely a functional piece. Put a certain type of adhesive on it, and it just didn't hold. And that's half the reason, because everything is done in Delrin, and Delrin isn't a porous material. Or when I say not porous, I mean it doesn't have small little holes like a sponge. And the other half of the material is that the glue can be better. So I'm going to do the same concept of the wall. I'll probably do this weekend. I want to make sure I get the OLED done first, because if you can have it work for the OLED, that one shouldn't be an issue. Because it's the same concept of having a little bit of extra teeth for a little bit of extra compression. So I should be able to tell based off of when I do that OLED if it's going to work off of that piece right there, because I know how much force how much force that it gives to it. Oh man, my legs are getting bitten by mosquitoes. But yeah, I think that's about it for this weekend. Got that calibration thing, I need to try the bead blasting stuff to see if the surface finish, to check that surface finish as well as the gluing. So one of the things I've realized recently is that I've been operating in a very sequential manner. So, do this, do this, do this. Yeah. And I think because my weekends, I'm very free mentally to, solve whatever problem that I want to think about. So you kind of have these weekdays where, you're absolutely exhausted mentally, but physically you can do stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have these weekends where mentally you're pretty sharp, And also physically you can choose what you want to do. So I think I need to start making sure that I solve the things that take the most mental effort on weekends. And then during the week, I can run a test, because you don't need to think anymore, because you've done the thinking. And because with these tests, I've kind of thought it out and drawn what I need to do for these tests. I should be able to. It's also a more interesting way to think about things, like how much mental fatigue is this gonna give me?